It's now my great pleasure to welcome the cast of the film Looper,
Argo,
Spring Breakers,
Cloud Atlas,
Hotel Transylvania.
Silver Linings Playbook.
It just feels like a real film festival for the community.
It's very exciting for me to be here to support a film.
I wanted to show Toronto the way I experience it.
We want people to like our movies and understand them.
What makes it really special for me is the fact that the audiences have responded the way they have.
If I got lucky in the first two, this was the lottery.
I feel like I hit the jackpot. I mean, I can't believe that I'm sitting at a table, flanked by these people.
Every producer I've ever worked with is in that character. And a couple I invented.
You have to be faithful to what they really were.
But I certainly wouldn't, deign to think that we are godfathering anything. I do. And that's why he's got the beard.
First nice thing the press have ever done.
I was really happy to find out this is where we were coming.
I said, I'm in.
The festival of the people who live here.
That was amazing.
Our moderator for today is Richard Krause, and it is now my pleasure to welcome David Cronenberg and the team from the Cronenberg Project. Thank you.
welcome everyone to the Cronenberg Project press conference. We've just gone through this. I'll do it again quickly. I'd like to introduce our guests, the two co-curators of the Cronenberg Project, Piers Handling, Director and CEO of TIFF, Noah Cohen, the Artistic Director of TIFF Bell Lightbox, and our very special guest, filmmaker David Cronenberg. Now, I'll throw things over to Piers Handling.
Thank you, Richard. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the opening day of the 38th Annual Toronto International Film Festival. It's my pleasure to be able to share with you news of the Cronenberg Project, the most ambitious exhibition ever mounted, devoted to the career and films of David Cronenberg. The relationship between TIFF and David goes back more than 30 years. In 1984, we mounted the first comprehensive retrospective of David's work at the festival and published the first book in English on his films. We have opened the festival twice with his films, Dead Ringers and Butterfly, and others have played as galas. 20 years ago, we approached David and asked him to donate all his files and memorabilia to TIFF. He agreed, and we have now collected a wealth of material from his films over the years, adding to the collection with every new production. The Cronenberg Project, in all its many dimensions, has always been a dream for us. Before we moved into our permanent home here at TIFF Bell Lightbox, we knew that the first major original touring exhibition that we would curate from our own collection would be dedicated to David. So it fills me, as I'm sure it does my colleague and co-curator Noah Cowen, with a deep sense of pride and accomplishment to be where we are today. David is a unique filmmaker. His has always been a singular vision, going right back to his first experimental features. And over the years, as his fame has grown, he has remained remarkably true to his roots. There is a thread of common purpose and intent that joins his last film, Cosmopolis, to his first Stereo. His work is provocative and questioning. His speculations on how science and technology affect our minds and bodies have also been remarkably prescient. He has grown and matured as a major film artist, and over his career worked with some of the finest talent in the world. And he has acted as a beacon and a mentor for a generation of younger filmmakers. The Cronenberg Project is a multi-platform endeavor, the core component of which is a major milestone for our organization, the first large-scale exhibition originated by TIFF that will travel internationally. But from November 1st to January 19th, the gallery you're in right now will be transformed once again, this time taking audiences into David's world, and Noah will speak to this in detail in a second. Let's just say we've taken the creative and innovative mind of David Cronenberg and brought it together into one very cool space. I'd like to add that we would not have been able to do any of this without our lead sponsor, Bell, our major sponsors, RBC, L'Oreal, Paris, Visa, and Audi, our major public supporters, the Government of Ontario, Telefilm Canada, and the City of Toronto. The Cronenberg Project is made possible through the support of presenting partners, the Government of Canada, and the Ontario Cultural Attractions Fund. Additional support has been provided by the Canada Council, the Hal Jackman Foundation, the Department of Canadian Heritage, and the Government of Ontario, as well as our media partners, the Toronto Star and Space Channel. TIFF presents Body Mind Change in co-production with CFC Media Lab, a Lawrence Wheeler project, and is made possible through the support of presenting partner, the Department of Canadian Heritage, through the Canada Interactive Fund. We'll hear more about this amazing project in a few minutes. And now, please welcome the co-curator of the Cronenberg Project, a guy that I've shared the last 2 years working on this project with, Noah Cowan.
Thank you, Piers. My own association with David's films actually dates back to a time when I was positively not allowed to watch them. An actress named Nuala Fitzgerald, who actually doubles as my mother in real life, returned home from work one day telling tall tales of being bludgeoned to death by a midget in a snowsuit spray-painted green. As a budding fan of all things perverse, I think I was around 11 years old. I was hooked on the idea of movies, creating magic.
I'm really sorry about that. I killed his mother, and I apologize. I should go on Oprah, really, but...
It's given me so much material, though, David, so thank you over the years. But it really did confirm that, you know, in the movies, anything is possible, even resurrecting your mother. So thank you very much. David Cronenberg Evolution traces David's development as a filmmaker, and it really examines very deeply his approach to the body and mind, to the questions of identity, sexual control, the role of science, and the existence of science fiction, what that means. Piers and I teased this out in a series of actually kind of wonderful extended discussions, and we organized it to follow in about 3 loose sections. The first one's called Who is My Creator? And it reveals David's earliest works from stereo through to critical early work, Videodrome, examining protagonists' search for father figures within the worlds of science and technology. Who Am I, which is the second section, looks at David's period from dead zone to existence as characters seek control of their own identities and divided selves and their experiments with their own bodies. And then finally, Who Are We, which is the third section, takes these protagonists out into the world, examining both their psychological and physical relationship to family, friends, and society, from Spider up to his most recent film with Cosmopolis, although there's one in the cans, which we're looking forward to seeing soon. These chapters are presented through costumes, behind-the-scenes footage, photographs, set drawings, and a plentiful supply of mysterious, visionary, and thought-provoking artifacts. You're in luck, because we actually were able to bring one of these objects here for you for a sneak peek. This is the Clark Nova typewriter, one of several iconic typewriters from Naked Lunch that'll be in the exhibition in a special room actually devoted to Naked Lunch and some of the thinkers in the 20th century, including William S. Burroughs, who've really influenced David's work. It's a beautiful thing. It's been around for a long time, beautifully preserved as part of our Film Reference Library special collection, as Piers referred to it. Of course, in addition to wonderful objects like this, which you're going to be seeing this fall, we'll be presenting film programs alongside the exhibition. From Within, the films of David Cronenberg, is a full retrospective of David's films, including several newly struck 35mm prints and newly prepared digital restorations created especially for this series, including Shivers, which will be screened this afternoon as part of the TIFF Cinematheque program at Festival, and David will be joining us to introduce that. A special 10-film sidebar called Psychoplasmic Panic, Cronenberg and the Rise of Body Horror, programmed by our very own Colin Geddes, the international programmer, famous for Midnight Madness, and will run from November 2nd to December 29th, and will showcase Cronenberg's body horror contemporaries and later filmmakers he influenced. Other major elements of the Cronenberg project include an art exhibition, which we opened last night. We had such a good time. It was just a terrific night. And that was presented with the Museum of Contemporary Canadian Art down on Queen Street. It was curated by myself and David Liss, the artistic director and curator of MoCA. I believe David's here. Thank you. Yep, there he is. Hey, David. Thank you. That was really fun. It's called David Cronenberg Transformation and features 6 new commissions from 6 major international artists inspired by or responding to specific themes in David's work. They include Candice Brights, James Coop, Marcel Zama, Jeremy Shaw, Jamie Shovlin, and Laurel Woodcock. Who do we have here? Any of the artists come? Or are they all still nursing their hangovers? Hey, James. James Coop's here. Thank you. It's an amazing collection of work, from a highly personal reanimation of therapeutic techniques from The Brood to James's incredible surveillance piece to a mind control mechanism eerily reminiscent of Videodrome. So please walk down the street and take a look at it. It's on until December, but we're launching it during festival to give people a taste of what we're doing. We are also pleased to collaborate with several colleges and universities in the Toronto area to create the David Cronenberg Virtual Museum. And we have a lot of guests here today. I just want to acknowledge them by university in the room, some friends from Sheridan College, OCAD-U, and York University. This is an online resource. It's an amazing collection of new footage, data, interviews, all sorts of things to stimulate ongoing research into David's work. It represents the next step for TIFF's Higher Learning Digital Resource Hub, which provides satellite educational programming to academic communities and general public. And finally, oh, there's one other thing. If you're looking for more of a teaser before November hits, we're also launching today an ebook preview of the David Cronenberg Project. It's a free download from the Apple iBookstore, another new thing for TIFF. We haven't tried doing this before, ebooks. It's also divided into 3 sections, nicely mirroring the organization of the exhibition, and includes a selection of behind-the-scenes images, props, and film stills included in the exhibition. This is released ahead of 2 original gorgeous publications that we're preparing right now with Torino-based art publisher Volumina, which will be coming out separately and as a box set in November. And finally, Piers referred to this before, we are presenting with the Canadian Film Centre, wonderful partners, Body, Mind, Change. The Canadian Film Centre Media Lab and acclaimed creative director and experience designer Lance Weiler have made a digital experience extension to the exhibition David Cronenberg Evolution. I want to welcome now Lance and Anna to come to the stage to give you some more information on the Body, Mind, Change project. Lance and Anna.
Thanks very much, Noah. Hello, everyone. The Canadian Film Centre is thrilled to be partnering with TIFF on Body, Mind, Change. First of all, who wouldn't want to have the opportunity to work with David Cronenberg? And secondly, who wouldn't want to be tasked with creating a work that might allow you to live and experience what it's like to live inside one of David's films? The CFC Media Lab thrives on the challenge of producing bleeding-edge innovative work and on collaboration. And Body, Mind, Change allowed us to do both. We brought together some of the most innovative North American companies and artists in the digital space, 1188 Films, Aesthetech, Northern Army, transmedia writer J.C. Hutchins, and composer Brendan Canning from Broken Social Scene were among those helping to bring this multimedia production to life. And I couldn't imagine working as producer with anyone else as my co-conspirator, but creative director and experience designer, the inimitable Lance Weiler. Lance?
Thank you, Anna. It's been a thrill to work with TIFF and the CFC Media Lab, and with David. It's not every day that you get to work with your heroes, and I think I speak for everybody who's working on the project that it's been a thrill in terms of being able to explore that world and work with the themes and the different parts of his story world. Effectively, I think we've created a wild ride for you that not only presents Cronenberg's science fiction as science fact, but extends the experience beyond the exhibition. Anyone can participate by logging on to bodymindchange.ca. That's bodymindchange.ca. Starting today, you can register to be one of the first to receive a next-generation biotech implant called POD, which is Personal On Demand. Starting when the exhibition opens, you can pick it up at the BMC lab, which will be on the 4th floor of the TIFF Bell Lightbox, the building we're in now. Now here's a taste of Body, Mind, Change. And if you're intrigued, you can also go to the site, bodymindchange.ca, and see an extended trailer. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
It's now my great pleasure to welcome the cast of the film
Hi, I'm David Cronenberg. I'm very excited to partner with Body Mind Change and contribute to its groundbreaking pod recommendation engine. The promise of pod is nothing less than extraordinary. It represents an unprecedented leap forward in human improvement technology, placing humanity at the threshold of a new evolutionary age. To achieve genuine greatness, we need only step through the door. Physical and intellectual symbiosis with pod will improve your life in unexpected ways. Through a process called synaptic entanglement, pod's personality integrates with your own. A truly unique life form, pod then transmits its intuitive life recommendations to you at the speed of thought. The result? You'll unearth previously untapped drives and desire, and ignite newfound passions. Pod helps you pursue a smarter, more purposeful life. It turns you on to new tastes and experiences. Life is now an adventure, and Pod is your partner. Join us as we make history together.
And now we've heard a lot about David Cronenberg. We've heard his voice on the video. Let's actually hear him in person. David Cronenberg, everyone.
Yeah. I'm at a point now where my life really is just, I'm just really providing raw material for Lance and Anna. I don't really have a life of my own. But I'd like to introduce you here to my own pod. I've named him Frisky. The body-mind change will give participants an idea of what it's like to live inside one of my films, something, of course, you would all be dying to do, I'm sure. Particularly Scanners, Videodrome, and Existence. In fact, the premise of the story world is that the BMC labs were so inspired by some of my own science fiction that they've turned it into scientific fact. This is an exciting thing, of course, the idea that your films, when you're inventing science, that actually should inspire actual scientific invention. I'm proud to say I'm the first participant in this project, and I look forward to having others join me in creating their very own pods. Frisky is, you know, he's temperamental. So I'm just going to have to, he likes a little water. There he goes, you see? There he goes. He looks innocuous. Don't be fooled. So it's an honor to be here to talk to you about the Cronenberg project, whatever that is. I have a long history with TIFF. We've grown together almost symbiotically, and it seems fitting that David Cronenberg Evolution will be housed here in Toronto, where my personal and professional roots are. I was able to see the David Cronenberg Transformation show last night at MoCA, and I'm just excited to see the various other components roll out in the fall, as well as to contribute additions to the program myself, and including a new short film, which I plan to be making. We'll see if I can finish it in time. I've just been finishing another movie called Maps to the Stars, so that's taken up a little time. It's kind of interfered with the short film. And there's an art exhibition called David Cronenberg Through the Eye that I've curated with the key works from the National Gallery of Canada, and it will launch on November 2nd at MoCA, and will run alongside David Cronenberg Transformation until December 29th. I've been working with TIFF throughout the year to strike new prints, digital and 35mm of my earlier films, and I'm excited to share the world premiere of the newly restored Shivers today with audiences in Toronto. And I'm going to be introducing the film, and that should be interesting. Because I'll probably say things I shouldn't say. So if you want to be there to see that, that's good. Anyway, Frisky, good boy. There we go.
We also have one other guest on the panel that we haven't acknowledged yet.
Yeah.
This is one of the typewriters from Naked Lunch. David, where has this been since the film? I've heard that it was in your garage or your basement.
No, I mean, see, one of the early things that Pierce said to me was, David, let us be your garbage can. And that's an exciting thing. I mean, imagine somebody saying that to you. That's really fantastic. And so that was one of the things that ended up ultimately. No, I actually, I have lost track of all the, we had, there's so many things. I have Stéphane Dupuis, who was he won an Oscar for The Fly, for special effects, makeup. Carol Spear, who's been the production designer on almost all my films. These things have been, they have them, in barns and closets and basements and stuff. And I really have not really kept track of anything. So I don't recall having that in my garage because it's a very small one-car garage with a lot of junk in it that's not very interesting.
But you've been donating to TIFF for 30 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The garbage can, it's gotten bigger and bigger. Of course, not all of the movies have sort of sci-fi cute artifacts, but they all have something. They all have even the costumes, and some have been fantastic.
Do you remember what some of the first items might have been 30 years ago?
30 years ago, yes. Well, I mean, the sort of parasite from Shivers, which was originally called Orgy of the Blood Parasites. I got subtle later. It was, the thing is, it was so simple, it was just a foam rubber bug creature parasite thing, worm-like, and it had a spring in the middle, and you'd sort of pull it with a wire this way, and then sort of go like that, and hope nobody noticed the wires, because there wasn't CG then where you could erase that in post. That deteriorated very quickly. Of course, these things they're not made to last. It's amazing how good that looks. It looks really good, the Clark Nova. But most things, it's just for the shoot.
Right.
And if they fall apart after that, so be it.
This, I've had a chance to look at it up close, and it's still an eyeful.
Yeah.
It's an eyeful up close, I will tell you. Pierce, you wrote a book about David in 1983. The year that Videodrome came out. Could you have imagined that 30 years later we'd be launching this multifaceted program?
No, yes and no, actually. It's kind of funny. I started to see David's film. I was lucky enough to have followed him in real time. I saw Stereo when I was at university. And then I saw Crimes of the Future, and it was the first time I met David. It was just before he had made Shivers, and he came to Ottawa to the National Library and made this presentation and said, I think that my next film may be a little bit different than these ones. But at that point, there was just something about David's career, and I followed it very closely, Shivers, Rabbit, et cetera, and I thought that there was such a unique film talent here. When we did the retrospective in '83, I think we saw that David was, Videodrome, I think, was a huge step forward for him intellectually and in terms of his craft and everything. And you could only see him growing and developing as a filmmaker. And Wayne Clarkson was running the festival, and I really supported this vision. It was so unique, and there weren't a lot of unique English-Canadian filmmakers at that point in time. And I don't know if we ever saw a building and we ever saw an exhibition like this, but it was, I think, sort of in the back of our heads, looking at, the BFI, the British Film Institute, had always been a kind of a model, and they were doing these things, and they had a Museum of the Moving Image in London in the 80s that I visited. So, those kind of things percolate. And, the resources of the festival have been such that allowed us to build the building. And when you build a building like this, you say, well, the first filmmaker you're going to go to, and it was the first filmmaker we approached, was David. We kidded about it. We want to have a David Cronenberg wing here, to be able to show the objects. So, in a curious way, no, of course, you couldn't have imagined it becoming reality, but it was, I think, there was a kind of a long-term, just in the back of your head, yeah, of course, it made absolute sense for us to celebrate our own and to create a space in an institution where we could put the work and the objects and the films of Canada's best filmmakers on display. It was crucial, I think, to my career and to the Festival of Festivals / TIFF.
Noah, This is, as we've gotten a sense here, this is a huge undertaking. There's a lot of moving parts here. You know, how did the ideas for both the virtual museum component and the Body Mind Change project come about?
Well, you know, TIFF doesn't really like doing things small, ever, as you'll see, I think, in the upcoming 10 days. But for this particular project, because it was something that was so instrumental and so important to us in the conception of TIFF Bell Lightbox, you know, over the 10 years of making it, and we knew that we were really leading up to this project, the Cronenberg project, throughout that whole period. We knew we needed to do more. And that, you know, kind of expanding on the idea of an exhibition was going to be crucial to the success of the venture. We were also helped by the fact that David Cronenberg is among a very small handful of filmmakers who has an outsized influence, an outsized impact on artists and creators outside of cinema, outside of the cinema hall. So whether it's visual artists, people in the new media universe, academics, you know, David has made a lot of new thinking occur worldwide. So yeah, when we actually approached our university partners, when we approached some of the leading visual artists in the world, when we talked to Anna and Lance and the new media, digital media universe about this project, there was enormous enthusiasm and interest. And I think as we're so excited to see it roll out and so you'll be able to see what we saw as we were talking to them and creating these new extensions.
I'll throw it over to you, and I knew Bruce Kirkland would be the first one with a hand up.
Good morning. Bruce Kirkland, the Toronto Sun Media. Question for David. First of all, I get a sense that we're going to be astounded by the technical aspects of this entire project, whether it's the restoration of Shivers by TIFF, which is unique, a big step forward for them, and by the way, it looks beautiful. But so the entire thing will be technically astounding. But I'm curious about the emotional journey and intellectual journey that you have gone on in order to cover all of this and bring it forward and give it up as a gift to all these curators on the various projects.
Well, I'm extraordinarily lazy, which in professional terms you say collaborative. I also have no trouble delegating responsibilities to others. So, and I have been for the last 2 months been shooting Maps to the Stars, which is a new movie. And so I've been kind of out of the loop. And really, when I read the final press release, which was, you know, about a 5-page press release outlining everything that was being done here, it was quite overwhelming, honestly. I mean, I don't think I've really grasped the enormity of what these maniacs have done. So I had no problem, though, with that, because when you make a movie, you know, it's yours, it's in your control up to a certain point, and then after that, you let it go, you know. It's like, it flies out. It's like having a kid. It is like that. It's a cliche. But, you know, your kid becomes an individual creature in the world. It interacts with people that you don't know and has experiences that you don't control anymore, and that's what you want. So I didn't really have a problem letting it go this way, you know, and to become, in a way, it's just another aspect of having your films affect other people, just generally, and then also influence other filmmakers. I mean, of course, it's delightful when somebody says that they've been influenced by you. It's a huge compliment, you know, that somebody's filmmaking, let's say, has been influenced by your own, and so I must say it's just been very pleasant, and there's been I'm sure that as time goes on, and I'm, you know, on stage introducing some of my films with some of the people that I've made the films with, which is what's planned in the future, I'm sure that I'll have a lot, you know, there will be that emotional journey. Because, frankly, I don't like seeing my films, my old films. I don't really look at them normally. It's just sort of, it's the past, you know. They exist, and it's like that. So it's not. So unlike your children, who you might invite over for dinner, I do not invite my films home for dinner, and so it's that will be difficult for me in a weird way, you know, to talk about the films, because I don't normally like to do it after they've been released. I mean, there comes a point where you've done your last interview about a movie, and then that's it. You know, I say, okay, I've had one good screening, everybody seemed to like it. I've had one good interview, that's it. And on to the next film.
We have another question right here. I'll get to you.
This is Linda from Fairchild TV of Toronto, and this question is for David. Most of your films explore human mind and body. Most of them, 80% of them. Why this subject? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I think all of my films, you know, you don't have a body without a mind and a mind without a body. If you're dealing with, well, some actors you might just get a body, but normally, no. It really all comes. It to me, it's not even a subject. It's a no-brainer. It's obvious to me that the basic human reality is the human body. That's what we are. You know, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in an afterlife and in all of that. To me, we are a physical thing, an extraordinary physical thing, but nonetheless a physical thing. To accept that means you have to accept your own mortality, which is why I think almost all religions and a lot of art are basically designed to evade that reality. That's the way it seems to me. So. And then when on top of that, as a filmmaker, what are you photographing mostly? You're photographing the human body. You know, you're photographing faces and bodies, and that is your subject. So to me, it's everybody's doing that. I don't think I'm just doing that. I think all movies are about mind and body, and that's a basic subject of it. There you go.
Sean Plummer, MSN Canada. Question for David. David, you've always been fascinated by technology, and there's this pod component is very interesting as well. And I had a mini Cronenberg festival this summer, from shivers to scanners. And watching Rabbit and listening to your director's commentary, you were talking about being very interested in technology at the time, science. You were looking at grafting, which of course you put into Rabbit as well. Are you still as interested in the development of science and technology, and does that still bleed into your work?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, things that have happened, I mean, it pleases me in a small way to think that, you know, in Rabbit I invented stem cell, the use of stem cells, and that more than predicting the future, I kind of like having anticipated in a small way, and it's not a big part of the movie, but it definitely is the idea that you can neutralize human tissue so that it can grow into anything. And I understood that I could see that was going to be possible as far back as the 70s when I made Rabbit. It doesn't. I find that incredibly creative. I love science. I really thought at a certain point I would be a cell biologist, actually, which has turned out to be one of the hottest, absolutely hottest fields possible right now. And in the old days, if you remember your science books, you know, the diagram of a cell, you know, there's a nucleus, and then there's cytoplasm, and then there's a mitochondrion. Well, the understanding of that has exploded hugely. The complexity of just any cell is extraordinary, and what goes on in a cell it's a universe in itself. So all of that stuff is still intriguing to me. I still love to follow what the latest developments are. And I have no doubt that it feeds me creatively somehow, even if it's not very direct. You know, sometimes I make movies without scientists, occasionally. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I still love that stuff. It still means a lot to me. I think it's an incredible part of the human project. Never mind the Cronenberg project.
Other question? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Suzanne Askoff, writing for Montage Magazine, the Directors Guild. One theme I've seen in all of your movies, I think, is the idea of passion. And the Mind Body Change project sort of alludes to that. So I'm wondering, where are you going next with the idea of passion sort of being a new thing and a new part of the project?
Well, you'll have to see Maps to the Stars. That's a film it's about Hollywood. I mean, that's an unusual thing for me to do, I guess. It's a script by Bruce Wagner, who is a wonderful novelist, and most of his novels are about Hollywood. And we've been friends for many years, and I've been trying to get that movie made for about somewhere between 8 and 10 years. It's a very extreme in some ways, and just a couple of weeks ago I finished shooting in Los Angeles, and it's actually the first time I've ever shot a photo film in America at all, even though a lot of my films have been set in the US. 5 days of shooting, Hollywood Boulevard, Rodeo Drive, Chateau Marmont, and we actually lit up the Hollywood sign. It's not lit at night, it has no lights, and we lit it and caused a huge kerfuffle.
On Twitter?
On Twitter, everybody was going nuts saying, what's with the Hollywood sign? It's lit up, and aliens, Martians, invasions, there were a lot of theories about that. We did it for a scene with Rob Pattinson and Mia Wasikowska. And the movie also stars Julianne Moore, John Cusack, and Sarah Gadon. So that's a movie about passion, I can say, in a different form than, let's say, Shivers was. It makes Frisky a little nervous. Human passion is not his thing; it's his forte. But anyway, so yeah, that evolves. I mean. Of course, when you're a dramatist, you're interested in characters who are not boring and kind of neutral, and so naturally heightened passions is, you have to decide what level. Are you going very operatic and theatrical, or how subtle is it? But of course that's an underpinning of drama, so I haven't abandoned that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, Ernesto Garrat from El Mercurio newspaper, Chile, South America. Your body of work is exceptional, Mr. Cronenberg, and I want to know if you can comment some ideas about the issue of the transformation in your movies. And for Mr. Handlin and Mr. Cohen, I want to know if you ever thought about what things are you going to get from this last movie, from your future exhibition. Thank you so much.
Transformation. Well, yeah. I mean, as a junior entomologist, I was always fascinated by insect life, and it always seemed strange to me that people were obsessed with life on other planets, wanting to find alien life forms and so on. When in fact, right here on Earth, we have just the most incredible alien life forms, and if you study insects, you would know what I mean by that. It's unbelievable how different they are from humans, and how the inventiveness of insect life. And a lot of insect life involves transformation. We know the classic, the caterpillar that becomes a butterfly, an amazing transformation, and it has all kinds of metaphorical import for people, and so much of insect life is that kind of thing, and then as you observe yourself over years, you begin to understand transformation in a very personal way. Not just physical, but emotional and intellectual. And it becomes, those two things kind of blend together, and you accept yourself as part of this universe of evolution and transformation, basically. So that has always been, I think, my something fascinating and something potent.
In terms of the objects from the new film, is that the question? Just had a conversation yesterday, actually, with the producer, Marty Cates, and asked him what objects we could possibly get from the film. And he mentioned two things, and I don't know if I'm giving anything away here, David. One was a book, and I won't say much more, one was an award. And I think those are the two things that he is going to be.
Yeah.
And there were some plot points around the award, which I probably shouldn't give away.
Yeah.
But the book
that's regarding Maps to the Stars. Marty Cates was one of the producers of that movie. Yeah, so we have some artifacts from that most recent movie, which isn't finished yet. I'm going to be in the editing room next week, actually, But there's some good stuff, a couple of good things.
In the recent films, we've gathered more costumes than we have these types of objects, as David's work has sort of moved into a more, whatever, realist vein, I guess you would call it. So one of the sad things we did miss was the limousine in Cosmopolis. We would love to have had that, even though it was trashed significantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we missed that object.
What would you say are the show-stopping items, or what would each of you think that the thing that people will walk out really talking about?
Well, we did locate one of the imprisoned mugwumps, still with his ligatures on his wrists and ankles attached. And unfortunately, he got a little bit. Some skin damage, because of his years in the ligatures. So we actually received a grant from the Canadian government, God bless them, to actually help restore him and sort of get him a bit of a body makeover. So he's going to look back to his prime when the show comes.
Could I get a grant for a bit of a body makeover?
Sure, no problem.
I guess for me, when we approached David 20 years ago, he more or less just finished making Dead Ringers. And of course, when you see the objects, the gynecological objects in that, I think that kind of led us to the donation. We were aware, obviously, of a lot of the other things, that typewriters from Naked Lunch, et cetera, but I think those objects were just so creepy and so artistic and so creative. For me, I think that they're going to be one of the highlights of the show.
Mm-hmm. And you haven't seen...
Well, I haven't seen them for years.
Right.
But yes, I always thought that you could make a wonderful set of jewelry based on those. You could have those little, hanging earrings and things. I think you could miniaturize them.
They're really
They're really quite pretty in a kind of strange way. Yeah.
We just have time for one more question. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi there, Jesse from CBC Music. Questions for Mr. Cronenberg. I wanted to ask, a big part of your movies has been your ongoing relationship with composer Howard Shore. So I was wondering, to you, what makes a good score, and do you have a favorite, whether it's your own or another?
Well, yeah, I love working with Howard, and he's a Toronto boy. We knew each other when we were, basically kids. He's a little younger than I am, but not much. And we've kind of evolved together creatively, and I've never really felt the need to go anywhere else for music, because one of the things that's wonderful about Howard is that it's really the work. It's not like an ego thing where he must put his imprint on the movie. He really gets into the movie from the inside out, and that's where the music comes from. And so he's a chameleon. I think of him as an actor, actually. I think of him as one of my actors. He plays any number of roles, very chameleon-like with the music. And we have a very intimate, sort of almost inarticulate connection, because music is difficult to talk about in a creative way, especially when you haven't, when you're trying to figure out what the music should be for a movie. And he has that sort of intuitive understanding of what the movie needs, basically. And also, of course, he has connections all around the world. I can only mention Naked Lunch, where we were talking about Burroughs and music, and really Burroughs doesn't mention music much, and he didn't really have much to say about music influencing him, so we had to sort of invent that based on the Tangier interzone element in Naked Lunch. And we talked about jazz and how Burroughs' writing is like jazz, really. And then we started to talk about Ornette Coleman, who I had actually seen in Copenhagen in the 70s. And Howard said, "Oh, I know Ornette, why don't we talk to him?" And before you knew it, Ornette was doing the music, some of the music, collaborating with Howard for Naked Lunch. And that's the other thing. Like me, Howard is totally collaborative. He loves to find people. The group Metric did the music for Cosmopolis with Howard, and fantastic. So that's really the nature of our relationship. And he'll be doing the music for Maps to the Stars as well.
Thank you all for coming. Thank Giant Cockroach Typewriter, Noah and Pierce.
That's not a cockroach. That's a bug. It's a beetle. It's a beetle.
It's a beetle. Giant beetle typewriter. Noah Pierce, David Cronenberg, and of course, Frisky, and all of you for coming out on a chilly first day of the Toronto International Film Festival. Thank you.